Are we all set?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start with the opening of the meeting. As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm that all persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Yes. Brooke Moore. So I'm going to start with the opening of the meeting.
Here.
As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan. Penny Dye.
Here.
Rita Higgins is not joining us. David Iverson.
Yes. Here.
Charity Grace Moffson.
Here.
And Rima Sherry.
Here. Here.
I do have some feedback as an issue on my machine. I'm not sure.
I do want to point out that if people are watching the YouTube at the same time, there's a delay and there's going to be an echo. So if people watching the YouTube could put YouTube on mute.
Here.
Okay, hopefully that's now solved. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. State each staff member's name. Tucker Holland.
Here.
Ken Bogran. Ken, you're still on mute. I don't know if I need to hear it. I saw your lips move. Ken's still on mute.
Come on, Ken. You have to hit unmute, Ken. In the top. Look at him. Oh, cute.
Found it.
Okay, there we go.
Found it.
All right. Ken has affirmed he's here and he found it. Eleanor Antonetti.
Present.
Thank you. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Andrew Mulcahy.
Here.
Julia Lindner.
Here.
And Jerry Keneally.
Here.
All right, have I missed anyone? Not hearing anything. Let's see. Introduction to remote meeting. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to an outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust is convening by video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. For Zoom meetings, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer, and anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using posted agenda unless I, the chair, notes otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules effective to the clear conduct of business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or your computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. Staff will activate the chat feature on YouTube. Members of the public who have comments or questions can use this feature to communicate with the public body. Instructions are on the town's website. The chair and staff will do their best to address each of the questions and comments. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call. Thank you for allowing me to do that. The first item on the agenda, I will call the meeting to order. And item 2 will be looking for a motion and approval of the agenda. Penny, I see you looking to make the motion.
So moved.
I guess we take this as a roll call vote.
Wait, you need a second.
Second,
I'll
second,
Oh,
Brooke Moore.
Okay, great. I have a second from Brooke. I will take the roll as I see people on the screen. Rima Sherry,
Aye.
David Iverson,
aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Aye.
and Charity Grace.
Aye.
Item number 3 is an approval of minutes from the February 18th, 2020 meeting. Is there any discussion? You're looking for an approval of the minutes or motion? Brooke?
So
I
moved.
see
So moved.
Brooke with a
Second.
motion, Rima with a second. Roll call, Rima Sherry,
Aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye. David Iverson,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Dave does not vote. He was not there. He recuses.
oh, Dave, I guess we're recusing you from that.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm at Brooke Moore
Aye.
and Charity Grace.
Aye.
Moving on to item number 3, we have a closing cost assistance program application for Mr. Mulcahy at 1 Webster Road. I think we may have lost the applicant. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I am. Sorry about that.
Andrew, would you like to make any statement?
I'd just really like to thank the trust for plugging ahead. I know and holding this meeting. I originally applied just before in March, just before this whole thing started, and I'm really grateful. The assistance would is really meaningful for me. I work at Housing Nantucket, and I've seen the impact. I think it's a great program, and I'm just grateful that the meeting's being held today. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Rima, do you have any comments, questions? No. David, do you have any comments or questions? No. Penny? Brooke? Charity? Are we looking for a motion on this agenda item? Brooke?
I move that we approve a up to $15,000 grant under the closing cost assistance program, pending the final return of any excess funds over the final closing cost amount.
And
Second.
is there a second with Penny? A vote by roll call. Rima Sherry?
Aye.
Brian Sullivan? Aye. David Iverson?
Aye.
Penny Dye?
Aye.
Brooke Moore?
Aye.
And Charity Grace?
Aye.
Great. Congratulations, Andrew. Thank you very much for joining us. Please feel free to enjoy the entirety of the next 2 hours of the meeting or move on to the sunshine of your day.
May I just
Okay.
clarify something?
Yes,
For the
please.
benefit of
Elena.
Andrew, we just got this in the nick of time, thanks to this meeting happening today on the warrant. So thankfully, it's not being pushed another month. So just so Andrew knows.
Thank you so much. I'm really appreciative.
Glad we could help. Item number, we have a continuance on a application till June 16th, so we'll move to item number 5. We have a presentation introduction with Julia Lindner from Act Now. Julia, if I can turn the microphone to you, I'm going to mute myself.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much to the Affordable Housing Trust. I'm really thrilled that you guys are having a Zoom meeting like this, and I'm thrilled that you're giving us some airtime. So I am the executive director of Act Now. We have had the opportunity to talk to a few of you, some of you outside of this Affordable Housing Trust structure. And I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of who we are, what we're up to, and hopefully this is the beginning of something bigger. So we were founded by a small group of summer year-round individuals. At this point, we're funded by one long-term resident, a summer resident, and a big contributor to the island's nonprofits. Peter and his wife, Bonnie McCausland, have been longtime lovers of the island, and he really has brought together a group of people saying, you know, maybe we can actually come together as a community to create a vision for what we want to be going forward and in the future. Our board is still quite small, and it's made up of individuals you'll recognize like David Worth, Peter McCausland is on the board, Tobias Glidden, Linda Holland, Bill Little. So a lot of year-rounders and hopefully more coming. Our mission is really to inspire the change that we believe is needed to protect what the community loves about Nantucket. And if you've read a little bit about us in the newspaper or whatnot, you may have read that we are a little bit different than a lot of nonprofits on the island in that we are a 501c4. And that's also known as a social welfare organization. And basically what that means is that our primary purpose is to advocate for the community of Nantucket. We have the option of lobbying if there is a need, and I know in the case of the Affordable Housing Trust, that could come in handy if the community is something that they want to lobby for. There aren't too many players at the table that are in a position to do that. So the premise behind the creation of the organization is that Nantucket has been growing extremely rapidly, and we obviously, you know, COVID and the financial fallout of COVID, I want to touch upon in a second. But if you look in the history in the last 30 years, you can, regardless of the recessions, you can see that we've grown at a tremendous rate. It doesn't matter what metric you look at, but in particular, building. And obviously that's a big reason why you guys are huge advocates for housing, is because of the repercussions that it's had on our local population. So, you know, we're advocating for putting together a community vision for the future of building. We are, you know, our goal is that we can manage growth in a way that's a little more stable and considerate of the community, of the environment. And it absolutely involves developing some housing solutions. And I know that you guys have had, you know, amazing momentum, and you've really put together some, you know, I've been following your work, and it's really been amazing to watch you grow as an organization. I think that one area where we're interested in helping out in terms of housing is maybe beyond the quote affordable housing, and looking at what one might call middle income or middle housing. And so we have some really interesting things in the pipeline there. We're also interested in focusing on some of the other fallouts of growth, if you'd like. So transportation is another big one. And in there, we've got traffic, we've got parking, a couple of hot issues. And none of this can be done without the collaboration with local organizations. So it's a big goal of ours to, you know, build coalitions with groups like yours to work with government and other nonprofits on the island. You know, we've got a good group, and I think that over time we'll be able to show the community that we do have real values like transparency, like data driven. We want to be thoughtful. we absolutely want to collaborate. And so I think that, from my perspective, I wanted to keep this really short and sort of starting to build a relationship with the Affordable Housing Trust. I wanted to sort of end by saying, we have a pretty severe recession likely staring at us in the face, and especially in terms of the island, some major impact to businesses and local families who are taking a real hit. And we're sort of left with a lot of questions and not a lot of answers, but there's clearly no question that people are having a hard time out there, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. What ACT now has asked, our team has asked itself, how does COVID change the strategy? And I think it comes down to this. We really believe that it's still a good time to pause and ask ourselves how we want to rewrite the vision for the next growth phase. We know it's hard to see the forest through the trees right now, but we want to be the group that hopefully can lead that conversation, being thoughtful of what's going on out there at the same time.
Great.
And so
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Rima, do you have questions? David?
No, thank you, Julia, though.
Penny?
Not at this time.
Brooke?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Julia.
And Charity? Any questions?
Not right now. Thank you.
Julia, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing kind of what you guys are rolling out when you feel appropriate for middle income stuff.
Great.
Eleanor, is this an item that we're looking at for public comment, or I'm not sure which ones to turn on and off, or do we just wait till the end of the meeting?
I would defer to Tucker on that question.
It's not indicated on the agenda, so I maybe save it for the end of the.
Sure. I mean, I think Andrew Cromartie can confirm. I think that the public comment aspect is going to be rolling throughout this, so I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if need be,
Yep.
that there's an opportunity. Okay, great. Thank you, Tucker. Julia, we're excited about, opening lines of communication, like you said, and, send along stuff when you feel appropriate for us to look at, and please join us at any and all the meetings you'd like to.
Great. And, the only thing I forgot to mention to the team is, I think what's amazing is when you look at growth, everything is intertwined with housing. And so there's a lot of, we're sort of hitting this topic right, left and center. So we're really excited to get
Awesome.
more to you guys. Thank you. If it's appropriate, I can sign off as a speaker and sign on as a public member of the public.
Great. Thank you very much. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, item number 6, we have a grant request from Habitat from Humanity. I believe Jerry Keneally is here with us as a speaker. I don't know whether I should open to Tucker or to Jerry first.
I can just tee up Jerry quickly. This is a follow-up request. You all will recall that we previously approved a grant to Habitat in order to purchase a duplex lot that will allow them to house 2 year-round families who are on their list. And in addition to that, which is really the principal benefit, it will allow them as well to, from that point forward, have all of their units be eligible for inclusion on the SHI list. And so Jerry's here today to talk about the actual need regarding constructing the units and the significant financial component they have already organized. So this would be completing their ability to move forward with these units. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jerry.
Thank you, Tucker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. and the rest of the trust fund. Jerry Keneally, president of Habitat. I want to thank you again for your help in the purchase of that duplex at Richmond. We're very excited to get started with our program again. Now we are in the design process and we want to start our build. We've been working with Signature. It's going to be a duplex home for the remaining 2 families. We have the drawings, which you can see in your pack, for the duplex, and the drawings have been completed. So now it's time to start putting that in motion, which means we're sending them deposits. We'll be starting as soon as we're allowed to, we'll be starting the dig at the surveys, excavation, and the foundation installation to be done this summer. And then when things open up, we hope, everything being equal, that the duplex will be shipped here in mid-September when we're allowed to ship on island, and hope to have these families in the home by fall with your assistance. We estimate the cost of this build to be $660,000. We have of the 2 homes. We have $200,000 left over from one from a CPC grant and $100,000 from a CHIP grant that's rolled over for 2 years since we've been out of business. And we have a gap of $460,000. In the pack is Tucker asked me to give you a schedule when we'd need the payments this summer for the duplex and all the other things involved with the build, and it's itemized there. At the same time, we, with a lot of help from others in the town, from the other housing agencies, we were able to get a lot over off Benjamin Drive, which we're going to start the infrastructure this summer. We believed it's the utility for the utilities and the paving, et cetera, is extensive, estimated to be $150,000. Habitat's going to be covering that from a couple of year accumulation from the mortgages that we collect monthly. So we'll be covering the cost of that. So we'll have two projects going on at the same time this year. And then we'll be coming back to you next year. We'll be hoping to build a single family home and a duplex, which has already been agreed to by the ZBA and the Housing Authority on the lots over in off Benjamin Drive. And that would be for 3 shy listed families, which will be starting that process in conjunction with all the DHCD guidelines to make sure that all the future homes are shy list eligible. So we're excited to get started again. It's a lot going on at one time, but if everything works by this time, in two years from now, we will have 5 families in place in homes on the island. But we need, we need your help, and you've been a tremendous help to us in the past. We hope that can continue. So I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Rima, can I open to you for any questions for Jerry?
I don't really have questions. It just, we did grant the purchase of the lot. And I guess if we had a look at the budget to see what we have in CPC, because it is CPC eligible, that's where I think the money probably should come from if we go forward.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Tucker, do you want to answer that now?
Yes, that money will be coming from the CPC 5 million allocation, and that's been confirmed by the finance director.
Dave, do you have any questions? No? Okay. Penny?
My question was just answered. Thank you.
Great. Brooke? Excellent. Charity Grace? Any questions?
No questions, but I did want to say great job incorporating sustainability into the design with the solar ready roof there.
Yep.
Cool. Any thoughts, comments? Anybody on the board want to raise a hand? Or not seeing anything, I'll be looking for a motion. Brooke?
So I just want to say this is amazing. 5 families in the next 2 years. That's a great pace for you guys. And I move that we allocate $460,000 from the $5 million of CPC borrowing to fund the construction of this duplex for Habitat.
Great. Looking for a second?
Second.
Okay. Eleanor, I'm staging for Eleanor.
Did you say 460 or 50?
She said 460,000.
Yep.
Yep. So I have a second from Rima, Eleanor. And I'm going to take a vote by roll call. Rima Sherry?
Aye.
Brian Sullivan? Aye. David Iverson?
Aye.
Penny Dye?
Aye.
Brooke Moore?
Aye.
Charity Grace?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Jerry, thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you
Sully?
very much for letting us work.
Ken?
Just a procedural point. As chairman, you should be the last to vote because if in fact is an even split, you have the ability to cast a tying vote, which you're able to do as chairman. So it's just a suggestion from a procedural point of view.
Awesome. Can the TV person move me down to the end of the group so I can remember that? Penny?
Another minor procedural thing. Charity you have to put her last name in there too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Should we revote or was that acceptable?
No, it's acceptable.
Okay, all right, great. Let me come back to the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Jerry, thank you. Feel free to drop off or stay on or however your time
you.
allows you to
Great.
stick
Thank
with us. We are on item number 7, financial review and CPC reimbursement. I'll open to Tucker to kind of lead us through the beginning of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this part, we're just, we wanted to include an update on CPC monies that have been allocated over the past few years and what has been sought for reimbursement at this point. There was a one-page summary of this, page 57 in the packet you all received. And this would not be reflective of the 460 nor the 375 as those are relevant to the $5 million bonding. The monies included here are from the annual allocations from the CPC over the last few years. So this is really just kind of giving the board update on where we are with those reimbursements. And we will be coordinating with the CPC on the 375 and the 460 as typically with CPC, the organization expends the money, then supplies the documentation and gets reimbursed. Because of the size of those outlays, we are coordinating with them on basically a direct payment once the finance director's borrowing is completed at the end of this month.
Okay, Rima, do you have any questions? Rima, do you have any questions?
No, this is all very clear. Thanks, Tucker.
Okay. David, do you have any questions?
Nope, all makes sense to me.
Okay, Penny? Brooke? And Charity Grace. Awesome.
Mr. Chair?
Ken, I see you waving your hand. I'll open the floor to you, Ken.
Yes, please. I just wanted to say that with respect to the reimbursements, I've been working with Glenna because a lot of these are wire transfers. We're going to figure out the most efficient way of being able to satisfy the DOR's requirements relative to making sure that the money was spent in accordance with what it was approved. Tucker and I have also worked on, and we're going to work together with Brian so that with respect to the 2 new items, we're going to figure out how at the time they're ready to be transferred, that we can create the documentation at the same time that's necessary for the CPC to avoid any delay in terms of the transaction going forward.
Tucker?
And I just wanted to thank Megan Trudell, who was very helpful in assembling this information and also the reimbursement packages for the CPC.
Awesome. It looks like there's no more conversation on that, so we'll close that update for now and move to item number 8, the RFI for properties under the Neighborhood First.
Yeah, so we're picking this back up, and as everybody knows, we have an executive session portion of today's meeting, and so I think in the context now of COVID and so forth, we wanted to bring this back up and see how we want to proceed with this aspect. And in the context of different opportunities that the trust may look at.
So for just a moment of clarity, this RFI will be looking for individual properties in the concept of the Neighborhood First program and sending it out at some period of time that the board decides makes sense, based on understanding we're in a evolving marketplace. But in the idea is to let's get the I's dotted and T's crossed on this RFI so we can get it out when the timing is feeling appropriate.
Yes, and does the current situation have any impact on what we're looking for?
You see Brooke raising her hand. Brooke, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, I wanted to add on that note that one of the things obviously that concerns all of us is the risk of year-rounders who do own homes and during this financial crisis. And I want us to think as we move forward, whether including something in our RFI criteria that speaks to allowing someone to stay who might be at risk of losing their home as a result of the crisis might be part of our formulation of this portion of Neighborhood First. I just want to throw that into the mix. Does the dynamic change? Do we want to add a criteria that speaks to that? So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Brooke. Penny?
Yeah, I would support that, but I think there's something in there already about displacing year-round people, but we should look at it in this new context as well.
Rima, did you have any comments or want to talk about it at all?
Yeah, I'll get to the mute. So Brooke, do you mean if there's a year-round person in the unit and the owner, puts it up for our consideration, then would we then see if we could qualify the renter under our guidelines through the chair? I mean.
So I imagine.
Go ahead,
Chair. So I imagine there's a couple of different scenarios in that, what you described, which is a current renter, but I'm also imagining someone who owns, who may be at risk of foreclosure. And are there ways that we can prevent that person from being displaced by circumventing foreclosure, acquiring the property and allowing them to stay as a tenant at some income level, particularly if it's a multi-unit property. So for instance, I'll just give you a scenario, house and a cottage, right? The person's relying on short-term rental income to pay their mortgage. There's no short-term rental income. They're at risk of foreclosure. Would they then propose to the trust that we purchase the whole property? They could remain as a market rate renter, and we would qualify the property for the shy list by turning the formerly weekly rented cottage into a deeded affordable unit, thus qualifying both houses because they would be rentals for the shy list. That's sort of the scenario I imagine in my head.
So just in a point of clarification for me, Brooke, in a single family structure property, that potentially could not be an option because we wouldn't be able to lottery a unit and meet the shy list. I don't.
However, we could build maybe there's a potential to put up a second dwelling that would qualify. So eventually the whole property would qualify. So I think that there's a lot of maybes and what ifs, but I just think it's an interesting thing to throw in the mix of our evaluation.
David?
I completely agree with this. My question again is so if there's two structures or 2 units on a piece of property, they could move into one of the units and we could use one of the units, or no, they'd have to qualify first?
As long as 25% of the units on a property are deed restricted and rented at 80% or below. So if it's 2 units on a property or 3 units or 4, only one of them has to be lotteried and rented out at 80%, and all of them qualify, and we can price them at different levels.
I mean, I think they're great on both ends. I mean, it gives people a opportunity or kind of a safety valve out where they could, still have a place to live, yet do something for the community. So, and it's almost a selling point if things get worse. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea if we can make it stick.
Would people consider the idea of being able to reduce the price of the property with a life estate versus a rental back to the owner, and then having the second unit as the shy qualified rental? That could be a venue or an avenue to work down, where the owner has the life occupant. The owner becomes the life occupant of their unit with a maintenance contract, and then the other unit became available.
I think it's really all subject to what DHCD would allow for qualification. But in order to qualify multiple units on a property, if they're not all at 80%, they all have to be rentals. So as far as I understand it. So, I mean, there's a lot of details to work out, but I think what I hear anecdotally is the last time the market collapsed here, so many people were forced to leave because there were no resources to do this kind of thing. And we're in a position to do this kind of thing right in line with stuff we've already identified as the intent of Neighborhood First. So I think we're uniquely poised to act in this changing market in a way that could be really helpful.
So it sounds like we need a little bit of massaging to the RFI that we have together, some concepts kind of put to pencil to paper to evolve this a little, to then be able to send it back off to council to give us some advice. It feels like I need to volunteer for 1 or 2 or 3 people for a work group to kind of spend the next 30 days on this. Penny?
I think we have a work group. I thought it was myself, Tucker, and Ken.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now we have homework.
Excellent. So we'll evolve this for the next meeting in June and bring it back with some of these ideas. Are there any additional directives that we want to ask the work group, Brooke?
I just want to say I don't mind the delay in this, because I think there's a lot evolving quickly. So the fact that our schedule on this is being pushed, I just wanted to state out loud that I'm not concerned about that at the moment, because I think we need to be able to respond to how things play out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, the marketplace is definitely evolving with a lot of things we haven't seen before, like mortgage forbearance, which will change the timeline of past cycles that we're not sure of.
There's also a moratorium on foreclosures and eviction.
Yep.
Any continued discussion? Show of hands. Anybody want to? Okay, not seeing. We're gonna, I guess, move this to the agenda for next meeting, and we will move to item number 9, a communications subcommittee report. Open to Brooke.
So our group was tasked with finding other seeking other proposals for this communication work. And we did reach out to a firm on the Cape that has worked with CDP on the Cape, which is a housing organization, community development, and they do a lot of housing work. And we did receive a proposal from a marketing firm on the Cape. We met, Rima and I met with the principal of that firm by phone, and the proposal came through. And then of course, COVID-19 hit and it kind of got backburnered. I think that we can circle back on this in terms of the next meeting, coming back to you with the two proposals and trying to make sure that they're apples and apples comparisons by doing a little back and forth communication with the firms that have made the proposals. The question I have for the group today is there any input to us that in terms of what the current situation, how that might impact how we move forward on communication, and does it change the direction that we're going in anyone's mind? We do know now that we do have a fair amount of limitation in terms of the website piece, because we're working as a town entity and have to go through town administration. So we'll be revising with that in mind. But I think COVID-19 related in particular, are there any thoughts from the group?
Rima?
Well, I think if we can move forward, because people are doing more and more things remotely, they're probably going to be looking for information remotely, since a lot of offices are closed, staff aren't at the location to answer phones. So I think if we're able to move forward as best we can with improving the website within the context of what we have, I think it's worth doing and important for the community.
Dave, do you have?
No, I mean, I would just second what Rima has to say. I think now's the time where people, people's gears are going and they have no way to access the information. And if we can, the easier we can make it accessible, I think, especially in these times, I think the better off it is for the general public.
Penny? Penny, did you want to add or no?
You can't hear my dog barking, can you?
No. Charity Grace?
No, I just agree with what was said before. Perfect time.
My personal one thought is I'd like to see the proposals driven from a place of content versus medium. I think that any proposal should have some discussion on the medium that it's being distributed by, but I think that the question becomes, are we looking for a content creator? Or are we delivering the content that they're going to look at and review? I think that content is the hard part and it's king, and there's so many places. Distribution's a technical aspect, and I consider distribution being a website or Facebook or mailers or the newspaper. But what I'd like to see the proposals to be driven from a content place on what we're choosing to get out there. Brooke?
So I see the work of this subcommittee, which is Dave, Rima, and myself. If I remember correctly, Dave, you were away for a while, but is twofold. One is meeting with Florencia and working out what media we have access to. Can we create a Facebook page? How would it be managed? And then returning to the vendors that we've talked to help produce the graphic and verbal content that would go out filtered through town administration, out through those networks that are available to us as a town entity, if that makes sense to people.
Awesome.
To be on two paths simultaneously.
Great. Anybody, but by a show of hands, anybody want to, any other items for that subcommittee while they're, okay. Seeing none, it seems like that'll stay on as an ongoing item. We'll continue to item number 10, the RFP for the housing production plan. I can't believe it's been 5 years already, but it's time to update the HPP, which runs out October of next year. This is a process for sure. The last time we did it, there was a lot of energy put into it. So Tucker, I'm going to open to you for the RFP statement.
Sure. We've got a little bit of time. It's not been quite 5 years in terms of when the last was approved, but in October of 2021, our current HPP will expire, and having an HPP beyond the importance of a roadmap as to how we're going to be addressing our housing situation, it gives a community a leg up, if you will, with respect to safe harbor. So without an HPP, we would be required to have twice the number of units for a year of safe harbor. So the board, or certainly those who were on the board at the time, will recall the last update was done by Judy Barrett, who is, I think most folks, if not everyone, are familiar with her. She is very qualified to do this type of work, but the scope of it is of a order of magnitude where we do not need to do a formal RFP. We can reach out to 3 qualified individuals or entities and entertain proposals from them. And so in the packet, there's a short memo about that and what we might look for from proposers. In there is noted a couple, in addition to Judy, there are a couple of other folks, again, who would be, highly qualified to reach out to: Jen Goldson, Ted Brovitz, and I believe it's Mark Jacobs. The latter 2 are folks who Andrew had reached out to when seeking a consultant for the prior update. So I think the key thing is we want to outline the scope of work we're looking for and give a potential responder ideas of what we're looking for, and I've made a few notes in there, and would be very interested in the board's thoughts.
Rima?
Well, the first thing I think that we should do with staff, either in a work group or just staff, is to go through the plan as it is and kind of mark out what's accomplished, what still needs to be done, and what is possibly obsolete or not applicable at this time. Just to give whoever's going to do it, the background right, in an easy format.
I would agree. It's kind of exciting what's happened since that was created.
Yeah.
And it's a nice world of change. Yes, Brooke?
So it seems to me there's 2 steps. There's like reaching out to 3 people, picking somebody, and then maybe forming a work group that then works with that person to direct them in what we need. Does that make sense?
I'm seeing a few head nods. Anybody have a hand to want to, for continued thought, comment? That seems like the reasonable approach. Do we want to, authorize Tucker, look for a motion to authorize Tucker to make those steps on our behalf, or? So I think I'd be looking for a motion on that. Anybody want to make? Yes, Penny.
I'll make the motion to authorize Tucker to proceed on our behalf as discussed.
Second that.
David, I think you just second that.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
And by roll call, Rima, Sherry,
Aye.
David Iverson,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Brooke Moore,
Hi.
Charity Grace Moffson,
Aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye. Tucker, you have your marching orders?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm clear. So what I will put together for the June meeting, what I believe we should send out to the prospective providers.
Please. Ken, did you have a comment?
Yeah,
Ken?
no, Tucker just answered the point that I was, because it wasn't clear to me with respect to the direction that he was given. But it's clear that his direction is to, in fact, come up with a recommendation as to 2 or 3 potential candidates, together with text of what the request would go back to this board for approval in order to proceed forward.
Correct. Thank you. And
Okay.
Eleanor, thank you for volunteering to be part of the work group. Production plan. Item number 11, other business. We are looking to schedule our next meeting for Tuesday, June 16th. Likely via Zoom, but is everybody date work for everyone? Okay, great. We shall see. Item number 12 on the agenda is public comment. Have we had any comments come in?
I have not seen any.
Public, if you're watching, now's your opportunity. All right, so not having seen any, we'll move over to board comments. Does the board have any? Penny, I see you moving towards the.
Here I am. I just want to say my seat is about to expire on May 22nd on this group. What, Iverson?
Yeah, Dave just answered your question before you even asked.
Well, except I'm a representative for, my brain doesn't work anymore. Housing Nantucket.
Housing Authority.
Housing Authority, thank you. And I intend to put my name in to re-up for a year, if that's okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
We would all like that. Rima?
Yeah, I'd like to stay on, but what I would like to be relieved of, if possible, is the grant writing. I just not sure that I have the time and energy to continue doing that, but I would ask that staff be aware of any grant deadlines that are coming up, and I'd certainly be willing to help, but just probably take less of a role in that if possible.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Brooke.
On that topic, we do have a 6-month report due for the CHIP grant, and I'm on it. It was technically due last Friday, but Community Foundation forgot about it too. So we've been granted a fair amount of grace but I have the information I need. Thank you, Eleanor and Meg. And I'll be working on that this week.
Excellent. Anything else? Okay, so now we're looking for a motion for item number 14 for executive session.
Penny.
Okay. You want me to do this? My brain isn't working from not having used it for so long. I make a motion that we adjourn the regular meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust, not to return to the regular meeting for purposes of reconvening an executive session. Did I say that right?
That works.
Okay, so by roll call, well, I'm looking for a second. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
So I got David Iverson with a second, and by roll call, Rima Sherry.
Rima Sherry, aye.
Dave Iverson.
Dave Iverson, aye.
Penny Dye.
Aye.
Brooke Moore.
Aye.
Charity Grace Moxon.
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan, aye. Now I think we have a technical break for a minute or two while we